Well, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? How is everybody doing? Can we all hear me? Can we all see me? Can we get everything going on here? Let's see here. Let's quickly hide the chat for a quick moment here. Let's exit full screen for me. However, let me just confer really quickly. Oh, hey, what's up, Zaga the animator? How you doing? Can you real quickly? Can you hear me on the stream? It's been a minute since we've done one with StreamYard here. Sweet, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know, Zaga. I appreciate it. So, as you guys are probably just as curious as a lot of people are right at this current moment, what the heck are we doing today? Well, today we're going to be doing a couple things. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be turning on the lights behind me because I haven't done that. That's better. Okay, that's a bit better. Now things can be seen a bit better here. So, anyways, so today for a lot of people who probably are unaware of what's going on here, today we're going to actually be doing a couple of things. First thing, as you can clearly see behind me, with the thumbnail that is going to be the title of this video, we are going to be taking a look at the unaired pilot that was released on Friday last week. Yeah, on the 9th. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Take note, I've already watched it a few times. I've compiled a list of thoughts, so we shall be going over that here. But one more thing we are going to be doing today before I completely forget, because today is the 80th anniversary of our beloved Thomas the Tank Engine books here, if my camera will be nice to me and actually show it off. Well, anyways, we have the original books here, at least the compendium. That's the compendium that came out in the late 90s. And this has all 26 of Reverend Wilbur Autry's books. So, we'll read a couple of those stories here just because it is the 80th anniversary. And I'm just excited over the fact that Thomas the Tank Engine made it to 80. Like that is mind blowing to me. It's just absolutely mind blowing over that fact. So, anyways, let's start by reading the very first story that ever came to be, which is, if you guys do not know what I'm about to read, it is The Three Railway Engines. So, anyways, today we start out with Edward's Day Out. Once upon a time, there was a little engine called Edward. He lived in a little shed with 5 other engines. They were all bigger than Edward and boasted about it. The driver won't choose you again, they said. He wants big, strong engines like us. Edward had not been out for a long time. He began to feel sad. Just then, the driver and fireman came along to start work. The driver looked at Edward. Why are you sad? He asked. Would you like to come out today? Yes, please, said Edward. So the fireman lit the fire, made a nice lot of steam. Then the driver pulled the lever, and Edward puffed away. Peep, peep, he whistled. Look at me now. The others were very cross at being left behind. Away Edward went to get some coaches. Be careful, Edward, said the coaches. Don't bump and bang us like the other engines do. So Edward came up to the coaches. Oh, what's up, Riveted? How you doing? How you doing? Yes, that is AI generated, Zaga the animator. You are correct. It is. It is AI generated. Anyways, so Edward came up to the coaches very, very gently, and the shunter fastened the coupling. Thank you, Edward, said the coaches. That was kind. We are glad you are taking us out today. Then they went to the station where the people were waiting. Peep, peep, whistled Edward. Get in quickly, please. So the people got in quickly, and Edward waited happily for the guard to blow his whistle and wave his green flag. He waited and waited. There was no whistle, no green flag. Peep, 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 peep. Where is that guard? Edward was getting anxious. The driver and fireman asked the station master, "Have you seen the guard?" "No," he said. They asked the porter, "Have you seen the guard?" "Yes, last night," said the porter. Edward began to get cross. "Are we ever going to start?" he said. Just then a little boy shouted, "Here he comes!" And there the guard was running down the hill with his flags in one hand and a sandwich in the other. He ran onto the platform, blew his whistle, and jumped into his van. Edward puffed off. He did have a happy day. All the children ran to wave as he went past, and he met old friends at all the stations. He worked so hard that the driver promised to take him out again the next day. "I'm going out again tomorrow," he told the other engines that night in the shed. "What do you think of that?" But he didn't hear what they thought, for he was so tired and happy that he fell asleep at once. So, that being said, does anybody have any recommendations for stories right going on here? So, I have the compendium here, but that's obviously not what you guys came here to watch. So, I was going to start this off with a reading of from the Thomas the Tank Engine Bible, specifically because, well, hey, it's the Thomas the Tank Engine Bible. You can't not do that. So, all right. So now we are going to get into this. So, we are now going to go to. That's not what I want. All right. So, this is what we are going to do as well. So, here we go. All right. So, we had to slow this down here. Maybe not slow this down, but we are going to stop and make annotated notes about this as we go along. So, please be aware that we are going to do the Down the Mine pilot, so be aware of that. Anyways, here we go. All right. So, something I would like to point out really quickly is that this definitely. Okay. So, really quickly, they said that they discovered this in their Mattel archives. Okay. Let's rewind this just so you guys can see this one more time here from this perspective. Okay. So, in April 1983, filming began on the pilot episode of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. So, yes, this did happen. But really quickly, the things that transpired prior to all of this happening was a nightmare, especially for Britt Allcroft. She had to plead and beg and scratch and claw and get her hands on the rights to filming Thomas the Tank Engine on television. To which, by the way, that's a very that's a very noteworthy thing to do. However, the thing that really entertained a lot of fans was the fact that they said that they had done this pilot in 1983, which honestly, once again, that's great. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I'm very excited about that. And they even did that. Okay. This whole thing that is about to go down and is about to be shown to you all is the very first rendition of Thomas the Tank Engine on film that actually managed to be saved, minus the Andrew Lloyd Webber version of Thomas the Tank Engine from the 70s that had the 2D animation whole thing. But that's a whole different story that we will continue to go to. But the point being is that they had so much work and hell and garbage to deal with in this episode with just the filming of this. Take note, they had to choose one story to completely adapt for investors to look at and say, okay, this actually looks good. I think we can work with this. If this is going to continue with what it looks like, yes, we're on board. Well, they filmed it, investors loved it, and it became the history that we all know and love. Well, what happened to the pilot? In roughly 1984, like right around the time they started filming for the actual television show that itself, The pilot had been discarded and tossed into a recycle bin, or not even recycle bin. It had been tossed into a bin full of tape that they thought was never going to happen again. Well, the only reason why I know that this next bit is garbage, and let me just put it to you this way, it's boiler ache. It really is. Um, the reason why I say this is because they had to seriously upscale and scan the several shots of this particular episode that they were about to watch here. They had to upscale everything in order for it to be on DVD, in order for it to be in the into what is it, the rehash, or not rehash, the upscaled footage. They have to do all that. They have to dig it out of storage. So that's what frustrated me about this the most, was the fact that they had to dig all of the footage out of storage to upscale everything several different times. And yet they say that this is where they lost the pilot. Well, if you lost the pilot, how do you lose that many scenes? How do you lose the almost an entire episode just like that? Aside from, canning an episode, the missing coach is another story, but this just, it to me, it did not make sense. And I do understand why it did not get, or why it got thrown away, or maybe not thrown away, but why it got discarded after the BBC interview with Ian McHugh and Mark Chambers, otherwise known as Wilbur Audrey's grandson, Mark Chambers, not Ian McHugh. Ian McHugh is the guy who took over the Thomas the Tank Engine television show from season, I want to say 17 up to 24. So, yeah. But they had to dig everything out in order to upscale everything, which is why I call it garbage. So, yeah. Let's get Okay, so really quickly, this scene was one of the few scenes that they showed off in the BBC preview for the whole deal. We're going to turn off subtitles because it's already got stuff on it like that. But um, they already did this, and it slightly frustrated me a little bit with the fact that they, okay, maybe not frustrated, but it was nice to see this model of Thomas actually up close and personal, or maybe not up close and personal, but it was up close to a point where we could see all the details that were going on with it. So let's continue. I like that they didn't use the actual fat controller, they just used a shadow mold. Oh my gosh. Okay. That Gordon, let's go back 10 seconds here. Look at that Gordon, that running board. Oh my gosh, that is just, I like it, but I don't like it. So, all right, is a reconstruction of the previously unseen test using film elements discovered in the Mattel archives. Take note, they said this is a reconstruction, and I can tell you AI had a smidge of a play in it. I can tell you just because of the way that the film is upscaled. So, let's just get going. Okay, really quickly, one more thing I want to make note about this, and I did make notion about this in my community post. We will continue on with the episode just a second here, folks. But the point being is that when this was being filmed, or when it was being adapted, or when they were getting ready to adapt it, Britt Allcroft had not fully gotten a hold of Ringo Starr yet. And so this narration by Ringo Starr is technically an unreleased version. However, in an interview, he said this, and I quote, um, eventually she convinced me, and I said, all right, I'll read 5 of these stories on my own on tape. I'll send them in, you listen to them, and see if you still want me. And she did. And in that interview, he says 5 stories. I believe this is one of those 5 that he sent for Britt Allcroft for the test screening and everything. I believe they totally did this all around the narration of Ringo Starr. And the one that they chose was the one that had the least amount of characters to adapt. So I think this was honestly the best one they could have chosen. So let's continue. Oh, also, really quickly, there was no music originally for this pilot. There were only a few sound effects, but not a ton of them. So basically, what they recently had to do, or what they had to do, was they called Mike O'Donnell, the original composer, or one of the original composers for the original model series, when David and Britt were adapting it. They called him in to completely do this for this special event. So just yeah, let's continue. My gosh, that station and Thomas just oh my gosh, look at that cheeky, smug, shit-eating grin here. Not to mention the usage of the workmen and the drivers and everything and the people, it actually looks like it could have been done the other day. However, the backgrounds do actually make sense because they did reuse some of this for I think they reused this for the Knapford set at one point. I don't know, but we'll continue.
One
His
day,
splash
Thomas
parts are
was at the
not
junction
painted
when
there.
Gordon shuffled in with some trucks.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that Gordon.
Phew, remarked Thomas. What a funny.
This face they actually did reuse for the actual down the mine episode.
Smell.
None of these Gordon faces actually look like they should. Except for this one, but at the same time, this one I don't think ever got used in anything else. All the faces for Gordon were literally this particular model only. And take note, the reason why I say this particular model only is because the running board is it's so slanted. It's just off-putting, and the proportions on the wheels are off-putting too. But anyways, let's continue.
Can you smell a smell? I can't smell a smell, said I.
Dude, I like this face for Annie. The way that they did that looks great.
A funny, musty sort of smell, said
episodes.
Thomas. No one noticed it till you did, grunted Gordon. It must be yours. Annie, Clarabelle, do you know what I think it is? It's ditch water. Before Gordon could answer, Thomas puffed away.
Dude, again, perfect use for the human props. I'm a little blown
Annie
away
and
that they
Clarabelle could hardly believe
they didn't
their
use
ears.
anything further.
That was funny. That was
Okay, we
funny.
knew
He
this
chuckled.
wasn't part of
He
the
felt
pilot.
very pleased with himself.
This was either.
Annie and Clarabelle.
You know how I can
chuckled.
tell?
He
You
felt
know how I know? You know how I know this part wasn't part of the pilot? The headlamp right there, and the way that Thomas's running plate is on the bottom of his chassis. I can tell you that this is not part of the actual pilot itself. This was probably reconstructed because there is one picture of the pilot where they do show this, and it's floating around online. You can see it, but the reason why this is not part of the pilot is because exactly that, the running board and the fact that this is not.
very pleased with himself. Annie and Clarabelle were deeply shocked. They had great respect for Gordon, the big engine. Thomas left the coaches at the station.
I think it's entertaining that they just show Knapford Station. They don't really go into they just show the signal
Thomas
box.
left the coaches
However,
at the
then again,
station
budgets
and
were
went
tight.
off to a mine for some trucks.
We knew this bit was part of the original pilot. The reason we knew this part was, and why the pilot was even existed in the first place, was because this scene of Thomas was actually used in the final version of the episode, which, you know, the only reason we knew that was because the side rods, the running board, and the splasher right there, right here. We knew this wasn't painted, and we knew this was a different model of Thomas. So this was the scene that sparked the whole Down the Mine 1983 pilot, and then certain things started showing up afterwards. So yeah.
Long ago, miners.
This is a different version of the mine than in the final episode, which I do quite like.
Digging for lead had made tunnels under the ground. Though strong
Yeah.
enough to hold up trucks, their roofs could not bear the weight of engines.
Wow. Oh my gosh, man, this is so cool. So the next thing I'm about to say that I do appreciate and don't like about this is this next part. So let's continue with it. Oh my gosh, that face. Look at this. Wow. I gotta say, that is quite a looker of a face. And see, like I said, the only reason, like, and once again, the lamp iron's gone, the whole bits, they're gone. So what the heck? What the heck is this truck just doing off the rails out in the gravel field like that? What is it just doing sitting there?
The old board, he thought. He had often tried to pass it and he had never succeeded. But this morning he had made a plan. He had to push the empty trucks into one side and pull out full ones from another.
So let me get this straight here. So to push the empty trucks into one siding, they're already there, and to pull the full trucks out. Oh, look, they're already right there. Um, all you need to do is just remove these.
Come on, waved the fireman. The driver leaned out of the cab to see where they were going.
You gotta say
Now,
that was
said
quite
Thomas to
interesting.
himself.
Oh wow, that's not Thomas's
Hurrah,
whistle.
laughed.
Then again, okay, Thomas's whistle didn't exactly exist yet to this point, so I can totally understand that.
Thomas, and he followed the trucks into the siding. Stupid old board, said Thomas. There's no danger. There's no danger.
Oh my gosh, the ground actually gives way. You actually see it give way.
Look out, shouted his
I like
driver.
that.
Come back. Fire.
Okay, really quickly. That looks like just straight up from the Railway series book. That bit right there just looks straight up like from the book. Wow. I'm actually kind of blown away that this bit of footage wasn't used, or that certain parts of this episode just were not used and just restructured. I think, man.
And smoke, said Thomas. I'm sunk. And he was. Thomas could just see out of the hole, but he couldn't move. Oh dear, he said, I am a silly engine. And a very naughty one, too. I saw you, said the Fat Controller. Please get me out. I won't be naughty again. I'm not sure, replied the Fat Controller. We can't lift you out with the crane. The ground's not firm enough. Let me see. I wonder if Gordon could pull you out. Yes, sir, said Thomas nervously, but he didn't really want to meet Gordon just yet. Down a mine.
I really wish we could have gotten to see more of this Gordon in motion, other than this scene right here.
What a jokey chortle puffing to the
Take
rescue.
note, this Gordon probably had to be pushed by hand all the time, and they probably got the smoke and the eye mechanism just to work. So they probably only had certain bits for this engine that actually worked. I don't think it actually ever ran off of its own power.
Poof, poof, little Thomas. We'll have you out in a couple of puffs.
Poof. That face for Gordon.
Thomas,
Let's just go back real quick here. What is that? You guys need your memes to start happening. There you go.
A couple of puffs. Strong cables were fastened between the two engines. Are you ready? Heave, called the Fat Controller.
Oh wow, that's so much nicer.
It was a lot harder than they all
I like
thought.
watching that. That's just so cool. Wow. That is
But
so
at last
nice.
he was free.
Okay, that was cooler to watch the side rods and everything moving with all of that. That was so much cooler to watch than just having smoke just come out of the ground being the steam. That was...
I'm sorry I was cheeky, said Thomas.
Yeah.
That's all right, Thomas. You made me laugh. I'm in disgrace, Gordon went on pathetically. I feel very low.
You feel very low. Yeah, well, your face doesn't show. Your face looks like you've been up a little too long, buddy.
I'm in disgrace too, said Thomas. Why, so you are, Thomas. We're both in disgrace. Shall we form an alliance? And Ali, what was it? Asked Thomas. An alliance, Thomas. United we stand, together we fall, said Gordon grandly. Right you are, said
Wow.
Thomas. Good, that's settled, mumbled Gordon. And buffer to buffer, the allies puffed home.
Oh, okay. That was nice. Okay, so that was a wonderful little bit there that they definitely did not need to do. Really, we'll watch the rest of this and then we'll skip to that. We'll skip to finishing up this live stream here. Wow. Yep, there he is in the hole. And there, yeah, dude, like seriously, they show that. That's so cool. Oh wow. Oh. Okay, that yes, definitely in memory of Britt Allcroft, 100%. Yes. I gotta say, this was definitely something I was not expecting to happen on 3 days. Like, hold on, let's get back to the stream here. So let's get back to there we go. So yeah, I gotta say that was something that it's one of those things that was just one of those it was one of those things that had something from the beginning and you could clearly see it. And one thing that makes me smile to this day about anything and everything Thomas the Tank Engine is the fact that it literally held that onto that something all the way up until right around it started to become a corporate conglomerate in the corporate monopoly world of Mattel. And then they were like, "Oh, well, this is that, and this is now our thing, and you can't say anything about this." And that's where you lose me a lot. So this is something that I really do with this. Oh, hold on here. Let's take a look at the chats. I didn't even look at them quite yet here. I haven't gotten to look at it. Riveted joined the chat here a bit ago. Yeah, that running board that was definitely there. The people making these I gotta say they definitely were geniuses because they definitely gave the impression of, hey, this exists. This does exist. Um, we just don't know how to portray it quite perfect. However, I do gotta say I like that mine. I like the lead mindset on the Farquhar branch line a whole heck of a lot more than I do in the official in the I like it more in the pilot episode than I do in the official released version. So let's continue looking at this here. The people making these sets were geniuses. I actually really like that old whistle. I do and don't. I mean, take note. You see that cheeky little shit-eating grin there on that blue tank engine. You expect the little, kind of deal, not the woo woo, not that. That's not what you're expecting. So, but I do like the fact that they even included a whistle for some of this audio. So yeah, I feel like the pilot Gordon's face is closer to his CGI. Yeah, I think it's closer to a CGI model too. I just think it's a little, it's just a little much. So, anyways, we'll keep the stream going for another few minutes here, and then we shall continue. We'll end the stream here shortly, but we'll read one more story. We'll read one more story from from the Bible itself here. If I can, there we go from the Bible itself here. We will read one more story from the Bible itself here. All right, here. I think I'm going to finish it with the story that actually I'll read the two-part story. We'll read it with Wilbert Audrey's magnum opus. We will finish it with the story of. Hold on here. Let's see. We want Grand Puff. And then we want Sleeping Beauty. So let's start. There we go. Let's go with Grand Puff, and then we shall end it with Sleeping Beauty. Sound good? All right. Once upon a time, 3 little engines lived in their own little shed on their own little railway. Duke was brown, Falcon was blue, and Stuart green. Duke was the oldest. He had been the first engine on the line and named after the Duke of Sodor. He was proud of this and wanted everything just so. Whenever the others did anything they shouldn't, he would say, "That would never suit his grace." Other engines came and went, but Duke outlasted them all. Stewart and Falcon used to call him Grandpuff. Duke was fond of them and tried to keep them in order. They were fond of him too, as he was so wise and kind. But they did get tired of hearing about his grace. Sometimes they would wink at each other and chant solemnly, "Engines come and engines go, Grandpuff goes on forever." "You impertinent scallywags," Duke would say indignantly. "Whatever are you young engines coming to nowadays?" "Never mind, Grandpuff. We're only young once." "Well, you'd better mind, unless you want to end up like number two." "Oh, Grandpuff, whatever happened?" "Number two," said Duke, "was American and very cocky. I resent that statement. He rode roughly and often came off the rails. I warned him to be careful. Listen, bud," he drawled, in the States, we don't care a dime for a few spills." "We do here," I said, but he just laughed. But he didn't laugh when the manager took away his wheels and said he was going to make him useful at last. Why? What did he do?" "He turned him into a pumping engine." "That's what. He's still there behind our shed." Stewart and Falcon were unusually good for several days. Stewart and Falcon became useful engines, and all three were happy together for many years. But hard times came. The mines closed one by one, and the engines had little to do. At last their line was closed, and the people came to buy the engines. "We'll take Stewart and Falcon," they said. No one wanted Duke. They thought him too old. "Cheer up, Grandpuff," called Stewart as they went away. "We'll find a nice railway, and then you can come and keep us in order." They all laughed bravely, but not one of them thought it would ever come true. Duke's driver and firemen oiled and greased him. They sheeted him snugly and said goodbye. They had to go away and find work. Duke was alone, locked up in the shed. "Where's his grace?" he wondered. "It's not like him to forget me." But his grace had been killed in the war, World War I, by the way. We're talking right around that time frame. But his grace had been killed in the war, and the new Duke, a boy, hadn't heard of his little engine. "Oh well," said Duke to himself, "I'll go to sleep. It'll help to pass the time." Years passed. Winter torrents washed soil from the hills over the shed. Trees and bushes grew around. You wouldn't have known a shed was there, let alone a little engine asleep inside it. Have you ever have you guessed about Stuart and Falcon? Yes, you're quite right. They came to the Thin Controller's railway. He gave them new coats and new names. Stuart became Peter Sam, and Falcon Sir Handel. They prefer their new names. That was a long time ago, but they never forgot Grandpuff, and often talked about him when alone. They were excited to hear that the Duke was coming to Skarloey and Renius's 100th birthday. But most disappointed with the Duke, who actually came, for once, excuse me, for he was, correction, but most disappointed with the Duke who actually came, for he was only a man. But we must say no more, or we'll spoil the next story. So, let's go to the very final story in Wilbur Audrey's stuff here, and we shall call it a stream. Duke's story had soon spread around. The engines told Mr. Hugh. Mr. Hugh told the Thin Controller told the owner told his Grace told the Small Controller told the Thin Clergyman, and the Thin Clergyman told the Fat one. That is why one morning the two clergymen and the Small Controller were looking at maps. "Our railway," said the Small Controller, "is laid on the bed of an old one, but swings around to end the road south of that village. The old line kept straight on. It went north of the village and then into the mountains. The maps show the works where, at the old station, if Duke is anywhere, he'd be there." "Are you writing another book, sir?" "Yes," said the Thin Clergyman, otherwise known as Audrey himself. "But not about you." He smiled at their downcast faces. "Cheer up," he went on. "It's about a nice old engine who is lost. But if you're good, the artist might put you in the pictures." "Ooh, thank you, sir." So the clergyman told them about Duke and Falcon and Stewart. "So you see," he continued, "poor Duke was left alone. Three small engines sighed sympathetically, and we want to find him, and mend him, and make him happy again. Your controller wants to help, but he can't if you're naughty. The three small engines promise to be as good as gold. And I'm talking about, when I'm talking about the three small engines, I'm talking about Mike, Rex, and Bert. They are smaller than the Skarloey engines, which is about the size of the engine they're trying to go find. The three men spent days and days at the old station. They came up every morning on Bert's train. He always whistled good luck as they walked up the track. But they had nothing in the evening except scratches and torn clothes. They wouldn't give up, though. Duke's there somewhere, they said. The fat clergyman found him in the end. Scrambling over a hillock, he trod on something which wasn't there, and crashed through a hole and landed, his legs astride on Duke's saddle tank. Our sleeping beauty himself, he shouted. The thin clergyman and small controller peeped through the hole above. Excuse me, inquired Duke. Are you a vandal? Driver told me vandals break in and smash things. The fat clergyman ruefully felt his bruises. Bless you, no, he laughed. I'm quite respectable. I dropped in because I couldn't find your door. And he told Duke about Falcon and Stewart. So they did remember, said Duke softly. Then, does his grace approve? Yes, he's coming to see me. How kind. I am all dirty. That will never do. Please clean me. So they set to work, and by the time the small controller had fetched his grace, Duke was the cleanest of anyone in the shed. Early the next morning, Mike brought workmen and tools. They enlarged the fat clergyman's hole, lifted Duke out, and put him on a low loader to take him away by road. I'd be ashamed, said Duke. Duke protested, to travel by road. It's undignified. So we can basically say that Duke was prior to hit Era Gordon. It's undignified. I'm sorry, Duke, said his grace, but the small railway has no suitable trucks. Duke gave in then, but so many people came out and greeted him that he felt better. So they still remember me, he thought happily. Donald was waiting with a flat truck. Everyone cheered when Duke was lifted onto it, and still more when he started along the big railway on the last stage of his journey to his new home. Peter, Sam, and Sir Handel were on early turn. They peeped out of the shed. He's there, they whispered. Shh, shh, shh. Duke opened his eyes. You woke me up, he grumbled. In my young days, engines were seen but not heard, Grandpuff. Remember? I remember, said Duke. Two idle good-for-nothings called Falcon and Stewart. Good morning for you, Grandpuff. We're glad you've come. We can keep you in order now. Keep me in order? Impertinence. Be off. The pair chuffed away, well and content. Impudent scallywags, murmured Duke. But his old eyes twinkled, and for the first time in years he smiled as he dozed in the sun. So, that is it for this stream. Happy 80th anniversary, and I hope all of you guys had a wonderful time this weekend, hopefully celebrating Thomas the Tank Engine in any manner of way that you celebrate Thomas the Tank Engine. I hope you all had a wonderful time this weekend. It was a wonderful 80th anniversary, so... Anyways, this is Thomas Fan of One saying, do not forget to check out Riveted Railfan and Zaga the Animator, as they are the only two people who commented in the stream today. However, do not also forget to check out Patrick with a Y, Jordy's Rail videos, Alexander Rothschild, Riveted Railfan, and Riveted Reviews, so don't forget about them as well. And do not forget to subscribe to Take Along Productions as well. So, anyways, this is Thomas Fan of One saying, do not forget to keep playing with your trains. Have a happy 80th anniversary, Thomas. Also, you done good, Britt Allcroft. We miss you.